Welcome aboard, everyone. It's Thursday afternoon, and you've got the hockeydebates.com podcast. I'm Bob Duff, joined as always by my co-host, esteemed Hall of Fame hockey writer Kevin Allen. And today our guest is going to tell us about a whole new brand of hockey. E.J. Johnston, you recognize the name. His dad, Eddie Johnston, a famous NHL goalie and coach and GM. And E.J.'s got his own game on the go here called Three Ice. And why don't you just tell our listeners right off the bat what Three Ice is and what you're all about, EJ?
Yeah, well, thanks. It's nice to be with you guys today. We are an overtime, all-the-time league. We are taking the best innovation in hockey, that 3-on-3 overtime format, and making it our full-time format. So we're an 8-team league. We're going to be touring around the United States and Canada, primarily in the Northeast, and we're going to be putting on a display of basically just the best part of hockey, all the end-to-end action, the tic-tac-toe passing, the breakaways, the odd man rushes. It's really going to be an exciting brand of hockey, and we're excited to bring it to everybody in summer of 2021.
EJ, can you describe a little bit? Will it be every week a different tournament, or will it be like a league standings, or how will it work in terms of the teams?
Yeah, so we're 8-team league, and each one of them has 6 skaters plus a goalie. And all 8 of our teams are going to show up at each one of our tour stops. And we're going to play a 7-game single elimination bracket style tournament to crown a champion each one of those nights. So for us, the first 8 weeks is our regular season. The top 4 teams, based on a point standing, and I'll walk you through that in a sec, will then advance to the playoff championship, and that'll be our 9th event. But basically, if you show up and you win a game in the first round, your team gets 1 point. If you win a game in the second round, you get 2 points. And in the third round for the championship of the night, you get 3 points. So you could earn 6 points total. So that's how we'll sort of Formula One or NASCAR it to a certain extent and create that standings volatility that we like to talk about. Because the first place team could lose to the last place team, and that last place team could win that event that week and pick up 6 points and skunk the lead team. So they can do a lot of leapfrogging in the standings. So we love that from a fan standpoint, keeping every team engaged and viable throughout the entire season. So we're excited about that.
And will the teams represent cities? Like, will there be a team from 8 different cities, or how will these teams be divided up?
Yes, so no geographical location. We're on tour. So just like Formula One or Formula E, our teams are going to come in and we'll name them after sponsors. So just like you have Team Ferrari or Team McLaren or Team Renault, we'll have, I'm making this up, Team Samsung or Team Sprint or Team Verizon as our partners. And we'll brand them that way, and that'll give a lot of marketing value to them. And we think the fans will show up for the hockey and not be overly concerned about the names and all that fun stuff. So we're excited about that model from a marketing standpoint as well.
Well, in my younger days, I was a rugby player and played a few sevens tournaments over the years, but mostly played the 15-a-side game. Now, I know being a rugby player, trying to explain the game of rugby to someone who'd never seen it before was difficult, but you never needed to explain rugby sevens. It was a 15-minute game. You went all out. It was all action, all excitement. As the name says, you only had 7 players on the field instead of 15. And to me, that's kind of what 3-on-3 hockey strikes me as. You might not get someone who's not a hockey fan to sit down and watch a regular NHL game, but everyone can appreciate the excitement that 3-on-3 generates.
Yeah, that's right. And rugby sevens has been a nice model for, I like to call it a more snackable version of the Big Brother game, the 15-a-side. Same way that Formula E is a great snackable version, or if you're a cricket fan, the 2020, the IPL league over in India is a great version of that as well. And yeah, hockey is very intuitive, and rugby sevens is very intuitive. You can watch either one of these formats, 3-on-3 hockey or the sevens, and it's end-to-end action, and they're trying to get in the end zone in rugby case, or in our case, trying to put the puck in the net. So there's not a lot of things you need to explain, which is nice about our game. So I think the casual sports fan, the casual hockey fan, and then just the entertainment seeker will all be interested in this stuff. So a more snackable version of the Big Brother, as I like to say, will be a great game to watch.
EJ, will you mostly try to get to younger players or former NHL players, and will the sponsors decide how much they want to pay them, or will there be a salary cap, or how will that work?
Yeah, so for us, our player, the sweet spot is about a 25-year-old to about 35 years. That's our window. These guys are, I like to point to Connor Sheary as that water bug type player. He's not necessarily a top line guy, a first or second line guy, but he's a third or fourth line guy. And he's the first one over the boards in that overtime session. So for us, that's our player. Everything gets paid from the league, so none of the sponsors are paying the players' salaries. We're a top-down ownership model, no collective bargaining agreement or players' association. So for us, the league is owning all the teams. The players are playing for the league itself. And yeah, they'll be competing for prize money every single week. It should be a lot of fun.
Now, your coaching list is some pretty impressive names, a lot of Hall of Famers, even I believe certainly in hockey, the first female coach of a men's team in Angela Ruggiero. Just talk a little bit about your coaches and what they bring to this, and let the people know who they are.
Yeah, so Craig Patrick, our league commissioner, really helped with this process. We, to use Hollywood speak, created our A list, and every one of these names was on it. And Angela's a fantastic addition. Brian Trottier, Larry Murphy, Guy Carbonneau, Joey Mullen, my father, Ed Johnston. We've got some great players and our coaches for this league, and I think it's going to be a really interesting fit to see how the styles will match up. I know that someone like Angela is going to probably have a lot more open format, but a guy like Joey Mullen, actually, he's talked to me a little bit about more of a defensive style. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how each one of these coaches tactically sets their team up, how they draft, how they play. I know my dad, as a goalie, is going to be really interested in seeing the goalie be a very active component to this thing, Grant Fuhr as well. So that'll be a very interesting thing to see how they draft, how they incorporate them into play. It'll be a lot of fun, but a world-class list of coaches. I think they've got almost 8,000 games played amongst them, 28 or 29 Stanley Cups, almost 30 All-Star appearances, just a real All-Star lineup for us. We're very, very flattered that they came on board. And quite honestly, when you get a phone call from Craig Patrick and he tells you he's involved in a league like this, I think it makes my job a lot easier to sort of talk business and get them on board. But we're flattered by all the coaches that we've got.
There's something hilariously wrong with Joey Mullen deciding he wants to play a defensive style. Given his entire career was about going to the net and scoring goals.
Sure.
In terms of developing sort of an identity, like I noticed, you already have a television deal in place. That seems to be what everybody, the way they start out with new leagues now, is you got to get that TV deal to sort of create the atmosphere that you want.
Yeah, the internet has changed everything, but you still need the mass vehicle of broadcast television. And for us, it was great to have RDS, TSN up north buying our rights, and CBS in the States. They're great partners. They got it immediately. They say, as we say in Hollywood, they bought it in the room, and they really got what we were trying to accomplish. So, the contracts took a while to iron out, but immediately in that first meeting, they knew what they had, and they love what we're doing. And so for us, we're really excited to be with those partners. And CBS carries to 120 million households, and TSN and RDS are just huge in Canada. So for us, we're really excited to have the right kinds of partners in place that believe in what we're doing.
One of the things that I talk to Rick Dudley a lot, and Rick Dudley always says, hockey sometimes, meaning the NHL, we forget that we're in their entertainment business. And he was a big proponent of the shootout, a big proponent of 3-on-3, and a lot of the so-called traditionalists weren't in the NHL. And that was always his emphasis. We got to remember that we're here to entertain the fans. And I know your family background obviously is in hockey, but I know your background is in the entertainment business. Is that kind of the perfect marriage, to have all these hockey minds combined with your entertainment knowledge to make this package go?
I think so. So for me, I'm a media guy and an entertainment guy. Spent a lot of time in the sports world, but to marry the kind of thinking that Craig Patrick or our chief hockey officer Steve Baker brings to the table with the entertainment side, we really built this league almost like a reality television show, where our first 8 episodes, if you will, are the regular season, and we're going to try and figure out who makes it to the finale, or in this case, we call it the playoffs and the championship in sports. But we really built it with an entertainment feel and a TV slant, TV first idea. For us, it's important that we are a media company showcasing our product, and the TV contracts are a big part of it. But you're right, we need to entertain. And so we think we've got a fast, quick, electric format that crowns a winner every night. And with the standings that we talked about, we're going to get the top 4 teams, and those guys are going to be competing for $1 million prize money in our championship weekend. So it's a really interesting format, and I think we've got an entertaining product. And so, yeah, we'll see how the fans react. But we think we got the perfect marriage of hockey and entertainment together.
When you're selling entertainment, obviously name recognition is important. Are you confident that the fan bases will recognize the names of all the players? I mean, do you assume you're going to get some guys that, or have you already secured players that everybody will know?
Yeah, so we try to get the older generation fans, guys that are my age and a little bit older, the dads and the moms, if you will, with our coaches. But our players are going to be that 25 to 30-year-old guy. These are ex-NHLers, and so we know that there'll be really good name recognition. And most leagues are built off of anywhere from 5 to 15 marquee players, and then the rest of your players are the ones that become emerging stars. You know, I'll point to a Connor Sheary or a Jake Gensel in Pittsburgh, guys that surprise you. You're not necessarily paying to see a Patrick Hornquist, but he's the kind of guy that delivers great action and great hockey. And we know that those guys will emerge as well. So we think we'll get our 4, 5, 6 stars, making it up. It could be a Spezza or a Brassard or a Corey Perry that are towards the end of their careers and leaving the NHL here soon. But they could be brands that we market around, and then you'll get those Connor Shearys, I'll put in quotes, and they'll emerge as well. And so we have a nice mix of I think, household names and emerging stars, and we'll see who emerges from the sort of that third tier down. But we got a nice mix of talent, so we're excited to see how they perform.
You know, obviously, as you say, you're kind of building it like a TV show. You need personalities that people are going to identify with. So then you're recruiting players. Will their personality be as much a selling point as their ability on the ice?
Not as much, but it'll be part of the equation for sure. You know, we want guys that are enthusiastic about the game, enthusiastic about three ice. First and foremost, they have to be top quality players for sure. But for us, I think it's a component. You know, we're in a new media landscape. It's shifted in the last 3, 4, 5 years in a much, much faster way. I mean, you know, we're having a meeting now via teleconference, video conference, and you know, 6 months ago, people weren't doing that at the scale that they were. So players that understand the business that we're in and understand the entertainment aspect of it, it'll be a variable, but further down the list, first and foremost, top talent.
When we're watching these tournaments, EJ, will it look like a 3-on-3 at the NHL level, or will you alter the rules a little bit so it'll be unique?
We're going to make it even faster, actually. That's a great question. So for us, we want to make sure that we're restarting as fast as possible because our clock is running. We're 2 8-minute periods for each game, so 16 minutes total. We'll have a 4-minute break in between to scrape the ice. But when there's a goal scored, the scoring team will clear the zone after they celebrate. We'll give the puck to the goalie, and he'll restart. If the puck leaves the neutral zone, or excuse me, the offensive zone, we'll give it to the goalie. If it leaves in the neutral zone, we'll figure out who shot it out. We'll give it to the other team. So we want to make sure that we are going as fast as possible. We're going to actually try and have only 2 face-offs, 1 to start each period. Another innovation for us is we're not going to have power plays. So if there's a penalty that's committed, we're going to drop the puck at center ice, and that person is going to have a penalty shot awarded to them. So for us, that's really the only time we're going to stop the clock, and the injury, of course. But for us, we want to keep the clock going as much as possible and keep the game as fast as possible. So some innovations like that are, I think, going to be exciting for the fans.
Are you looking at potential visual innovations too? Like, I don't know, maybe helmet cams or, you know, miking the players, things like that to kind of give people more of a feel for what's going on the ice?
That's a perfect question. The answer is yes. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to innovate by having a cameraman on the ice. So the same way that you saw in the NFL or the XFL, they had a huddle cam that the guy would pull out. We're going to be in that face-off circle. We're going to be right with that guy as he's going down for the penalty shot. We're going to have a lot of interesting angles from the on-ice handheld camera because we have so much space out there. We only have 2 referees and 6 skaters, so there's a lot of room for that third body. And then for us, we think we'll have a lot of different cameras in a lot of different places. A second screen broadcast going on, sort of reporting from behind the scenes is a no-brainer for us. We'll have the traditional cameras in the traditional spots, but that on-ice camera, that second screen, fans can watch on their laptop or their handheld, seeing what's going on in the locker rooms and backstage prep, so to speak. That's going to be some of the innovations we're going to bring visually to the game as well.
I'm intrigued by, you mentioned before about possibly getting the goalie more involved in the, the transition and so forth. Like, how different might that be? I mean, have you considered the idea that the goalie might move up and enter the play like sometimes soccer goalkeepers do, that sort of thing?
Yeah, there's certainly going to be no rules restricting that. I'd be surprised if that happens. But I can tell you that my father has talked about it from the 3-on-3 overtime in the NHL. He said early on he noticed that you could use the goalie as a opportunity to take a line change. You throw it back to him, you change your personnel, and then that goalie then plays it usually back to the guy that comes on the ice. However, you could draft up some real plays to have that goalie actually move up a little bit once he's got it and hit a guy coming across from the bench, or having some sort of formation where the goalie is actually part of I'll call it a restart from a line change. There's a lot of innovations that my dad's been talking about. He's 84, but his mind is sharp and he thinks the game in ways that I don't think a lot of folks do. If you're really familiar with his career, he broke the single-season power play goals for team record twice. So he thinks about the game in terms of X's and O's in very, very different ways. So I think he's going to have a trick or two up his sleeve for the rest of the coaching staff.
Well, EJ, it certainly sounds like it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be something that is going to have people on the edge of their seats. And I know I'm looking forward to seeing it. I played in some 3-on-3 tournaments, and I know the pace and the action, and I think there's no time to relax in a 3-on-3 tournament, because
exactly,
no matter where the puck is, it can be in your net really quickly. So we're really looking forward to seeing it, and we thank you for joining us today, and all the best. And I'm sure as you get closer to getting on the ice, we'll have you back on, and we can talk about plans for the season once you've got things, some player names and some things like that in place. We'd love to have you back.
It's coming soon. I think our next big announcement will be our cities and arenas, and you'll see that probably about another 2 months from now. So, lots of things to report, and I'd love to come back, guys. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Give my best to your dad. I've known him a long time.
All right.
Great guy.
Thanks a lot, EJ. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
I think that's interesting, Kevin. I mean, I think where a lot of these new leagues go wrong is they try to replicate what already exists, and the XFL is not going to be the NFL, so you got to try something different. I mean, this 3-ice isn't going to be the NHL, but they're going to be something completely different, and that I think has a chance to work.
Well, to be honest, both of those football leagues, and I wrote about both of them when I was with USA Today. Both of those leagues had a chance to survive. Their television ratings were actually quite good. And it was just the management of the league that had caused the problems. Under-financed in the first one, and then simply the virus hit the second one, and they were just on. I thought was it the virus, or did they pull the plug before the virus? I've lost track of the second one.
They shut down, and then they pulled the plug.
Yeah, whatever. But I thought both of those leagues had a chance. And let's put it this way: they certainly didn't miss out because fans weren't interested. They lost out for other reasons. The fans were interested in their product, and I think the same will be true with this 3-on-3.
And I think EJ called it snackable version of hockey, and I think that's vital too, because it's not like you're asking viewers or fans to commit to 3 hours to watch a game. This is probably going to be all wrapped up in an hour or so. With 8-minute, 16-minute games with a flood. He said for 4 minutes, so you're figuring a game's done in 20 minutes. 8 teams. So what are you talking? 7 or 8 games. So probably 2 hours max, and it's going to be all over.
Well, in that case, it's really made for television. It's a made for television event, and I liked it too. The snackable version, bite size, we could call it, in terms of the time allotment. And that's what one of the complaints you do here is, people who settle in to watch may not have 2 hours and 40 minutes, but they certainly have 2 hours. That's a big difference, that extra 40 minutes. So the key for them will be to get some name recognition. They're going to really, I think, need to get names that people will recognize. And, the way the NHL is going, it's all about speed. And this will be no different. I don't think we're going to see any lumbering defensemen on these teams.
But I thought some of the names he threw out there, that's intriguing too, to think, you get a guy who maybe he's done at the NHL level, but still has some game left and, has a name recognition like a Jason Spencer or a Corey Perry, that type of player who, might, and then, physically, and probably in the case of Corey Perry, his body might be breaking down, and, playing a 60-minute hockey game might be tough for him. but 16 minutes of hockey, I'm sure all those guys still have that in them.
Yeah, well, it'll come down to how much competitive spirit they still have left, because one of the issues of attracting people with the new league these days is Spezza and Corey Perry made a great deal of money during their careers, so they will not be lured by the dollar. You can't give them enough money. Well, you could, but I don't think that the league will be able to pay them like they were in the NHL. So you've really got to rely on their desire to keep playing in a competitive environment. So, and there'll be some that will want to do that, but I also think there'll be others who will say, look, I've done my thing. So, they're going to have to work at it to get the named players. But, there's a lot of players out there, and there are a lot of players, who have names for a variety of reasons. And, nothing's coming to me off the top of my head, but you know what I'm talking about. There are players that have some notoriety, that are skilled that they might be able to bring in. And, I meant to ask him too, is whether they would consider, 3-on-3. There's not going to be too much physical play, I wouldn't imagine. And so would they allow a top female player to join in this league in a 3-on-3? We've seen obviously some players in the women's hockey with tremendous speed who could be a factor in this. So it'll be interesting to see. Next time we have him on, we'll have to ask him about that.
Well, you would think with Angela Ruggiero being one of the coaches that she would be lobbying for that to happen. So
yeah,
she was the first female position player to play in a men's pro league. So maybe she wants to be the first female coach to coach a female player in a men's pro league.
Well, this is a format where it might work, to be honest. Again, it depends on how physical this is going to be. If it's going to be played on regulation rink, and there was no indication that it won't, then it's hard to develop any kind of physical game with people moving at top speed. It's all about offense. So, I think it's possible. I wonder if that's already in the plans.
I remember Megan Augusta, after she played in her first Olympics for Canada, came back to the Windsor area and was still in her last year of high school because she was only 18 and played in the boys' high school league. And a couple of coaches tried to get her kicked out of the league. And I got assigned to do a story on it. I remember saying to her, Megan, you're breaking new ground here. And they used to want you out because you were a girl. They want you out because you're too good.
Yeah, no, that is going to be it's going to be interesting. And the timing of this, certainly is important as well. They said the spring, is that when it's going to debut?
Spring of 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't know about that spring. You're going to be up against the Stanley Cup playoffs then. So,
Are they though with the reschedule? Are they going to, with the way things are going, are they going to be the NHL going to be to the playoffs by the spring?
Well, I guess it's when they start in the spring.
Yeah.
Because it'll be, and we'll talk about that right now. The NHL has announced that next season, the likely start date is December 1st. And it's almost the best of all worlds for a lot of teams. Like, how many years, Bob, have you and I heard from general managers in, not major markets that they hate those early October, November games competing against, the World Series or, college football and all that kind of stuff. It's hard for some cities to generate attendance in October and November in the NHL. So, now all of a sudden they're going to be right into the winter months in December, and that's a better situation. So they lose like 8 weeks. So if you add 8 weeks onto the on the back end, now you're thinking, okay, July and August is you'll be playing, playoffs. But they're going to gain a week. I'm sure they won't have an all-star game, and they'll squeeze the schedule a little bit. So I wouldn't be shocked that they wrap it up by the end of July.
You talk about things going on. I remember talking to some hockey executives and in places like Texas and Florida. They said even high school football in the fall is a tough compete for the NHL because it's so huge in places like Florida and Texas. And, you wouldn't even think of a high school sport affecting a pro sport, but in certain areas of the U.S., high school football is like religion.
Well, for sure. I'm sure it does in Texas. I'm sure the Dallas Stars don't put home games on Friday night in Texas. I mean, I've not looked at that, but going to high school football is just part of life in Texas on Friday nights in October and November. So I would assume that would be the case, and that's going to be interesting for this 3-on-3 league too. Picking the right nights to play on will also be important. Like everything matters when you're doing this, but starting out with a TV contract, that's great. Now you don't have to, you don't have to fill the stands. Like it's not as big a deal if you've got, a TV event, and you could see, CBS, why they would want that. I mean, that's a nice, something to fill. I mean, networks these days are looking for events to fill. They don't have as many events. I mean, they have, like Fox now has the PBA. Because again, they need sports to fill. There's America, and I guess North America really craves sports, and we don't have enough to fill all the time slots that are available.
And even we mentioned rugby sevens. NBC often carries rugby sevens, and you'd never get a North American network to carry a full 15-a-side 80-minute rugby game. But rugby sevens is like pretty much as EJ said, it's kind of their model. It's a 2 7.5-minute halves, and it's just run, full out, and you got 7 guys trying to cover basically what equates to a football field. So, it's constant action. Looks like we've lost Kevin. Hopefully he'll be back in a minute. We were talking about the 3-ice, obviously, a very interesting proposal. 3-on-3 hockey is exciting for 5 minutes or less in the NHL. It always ends, though, when somebody scores. And in this format, it's not going to end when somebody scores. And it's going to be one game after another of intense, fast-paced hockey. So it's going to be exciting to see. And I think people will gravitate toward it. I think people that maybe wouldn't watch a regular NHL game are going to be curious to watch this because it's about exciting. It's fast paced. It's, it's made for TV kind of sports. It's kind of like, I don't know. Well, we've lost Kevin completely now. All right. So hopefully Kevin's coming back soon. What else is going on? Certainly the NHL, some of the teams that aren't going to be involved in the playoffs their fans got some things to look forward to this week. The announcement that it looks like the draft will be held on October 6th. So teams that aren't going to win the Stanley Cup, or even the 7 teams that don't have a shot at being in the playoffs, now their fans have a target date for something to get excited about, because their team will finally get to make some news and pick a player. Obviously, we'll know by then who has the first pick. We don't know that now. We know it'll be one of 8 teams. The 8 losers in the first round of the playoffs, one of them is going to win this drawing in the second draft lottery, I guess the second phase they're calling it. Strange situation, but they decided to go that way, and that's the way it's going to end up. It was interesting this week. I was working on a story about the draft and which team might win that second phase of the lottery, and Montreal Canadiens fans might be happy to know that they're the favorite right now. They're given plus 1,000 odds to be the team that gets the first overall pick. And would Montreal fans like to see Alexis Lafreniere in a Canadiens uniform next season? And kind of remind you of the 71 draft when the Habs finagled the number 1 pick out of the California Golden Seals, ended up being the first overall pick, and they got Guy Lafleur from that pick, another Quebec League sensation who helped Montreal win 5 Stanley Cups. So if Alexis Lafreniere did even half of that for the Canadiens, I think their fan base would be pretty pleased. But the flip side of that is if Montreal is going to get the first pick, it means they're going to get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. So do you want to see your team in the playoffs and have a run, or would you rather have a shot at Alexis Lafreniere? Now, if you're one of those 16 teams in that first round, that's a real dilemma. All of a sudden, you've got a chance to get potentially a generational franchise player who could change your team's fortunes for the next decade. Or do you want to make a run at the Stanley Cup? Now, odds are if you're one of those 8 bottom teams that only got into this because of the new format, the odds are pretty slim that you're going to win the cup. But the fact of the matter is, you could win a great player, like a Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby type of player, and he could make your team a Stanley Cup champion down the road. So is it worth trying to make a likely improbable run at the cup, or are you better off if your team goes out in the first round and you get a shot at this guy? Now, again, even if you go out, you're still at a 1 in 8 chance of getting him, but everyone that goes out in the first round has an equal chance at getting him. They all are going to get the same 12.5% chance of landing what could be a superstar player and maybe someone who wins you the Stanley Cup down the road. Well, it looks like Kevin's not going to make it back before time runs out today. So thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the talk about 3 Ice, and we'll be back with you again on Tuesday. This has been the Hockey Debates podcast. I'm Bob Duff, and Kevin Allen normally would be here to say goodbye, but I'll say it for him this time. So we'll look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. Have a great day.